Hi everybody, my name is Mr. Francy and welcome back to Mr. Francy Reads! Technically speaking, this is future Mr. Francy here, popping in just to make a little bit of an announcement regarding this video. Okay, so originally, I actually had my last video, the discussion on page count terminology, as well as this video as one big video. But in the end, I decided that I'm going to break them up into two videos because they were just going for way too long. But I hope you're enjoying these discussions, and if you are, let me know in the comment section below. So, today we are going to be talking about age ratings, age rating recommendations, age rating discussions, all those sorts of things. A very quick heads up, at some point in the video I do discuss the best way to locate an age rating, so I do talk about Goodreads. I will leave that in the video for you. When I talk about Goodreads, I'm specifically talking about the non-beta version. I am referring to the Goodreads website and not the Goodreads app, because I have found over the years that they are two completely different things when it comes to determining age ratings, as well as genres, because they don't normally appear on the app. But when you go to the Goodreads website, it generally will come up with the beta version. In the bottom right hand corner there is a word and a button that says beta. You click that and then it gives you the option to leave the beta. Once you leave the beta and then click on the book that you're looking for, that will give you that information. But I also wanted to let you know that you can find this information in other ways as well. The publisher's website is generally the best way to go. Find out the book's publisher. Who is publishing this book? Because those are the people that need to know this stuff. So you would think that they would definitely have the absolute be-all, end-all answer as to what that age rating is. Anyway, I don't want to take up too much of your time. Let's head on over to the video. If you enjoy it, give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button if you have not already. Thank you guys for allowing me to do this quick future drop-in, and I'll see you again at the end of the video. You ever wondered what type of a book you should read? You ever thought to yourself, well, I know the genre that I want to read because I want to read a fantasy, or I want to read a sci-fi, or I want to read a thriller. The list goes on and on, as we all know. But have you ever wondered about the specific themes that might come up in that book? For example, have you ever thought that, yeah, I want to read a fantasy, but I love the blood and gore of a well thought out fight, and I want to see the author be really dramatic with me and just tell me in as much graphic detail how the blood, forgive me, how the blood was oozing out of the victim as they were slowly dying, and all the scars on them and all that kind of all that kind of stuff. Or the opposite way around. I want to read a fantasy, but you know what? Seriously, I do not want to read a fantasy where where authors are being extremely graphic and telling me about how someone died, or other themes that can come up in books that, seriously, I mean, when you enter a bedroom, you're going to bed. I don't need to read the rest of that. And you're trying to work out, what kind of a book do I go for? And sometimes with readers who just, and this is through no fault of their own, they just don't know, they'll pick a book purely based on the fact that it kind of looks like it won't have those things that you don't want. So you go with that. But the best way to determine how full on a book is going to be comes back to an age rating. Every single book that is published is required somewhere to have an age rating. In case you didn't know, there are many ways to determine this. The best recommendation I can give you is, and I have to be specific here, is the non-beta version of Goodreads. Generally speaking, on Goodreads, readers will classify their books under a certain heading, and most of the time, they will allude to the age rating. If you look on the right-hand side where you see all of the genres that they have tagged for their reviews, like paranormal, fantasy, horror, sci-fi, and you get those really fun moments that seriously are so much fun, where you have a book and then it says 500 people are labeling this a fantasy, 400 people are labeling this as a paranormal, 30 people are calling this a culinary fiction, and 20 people are calling it a romance, and 10 people are calling it a literary fiction. You just have those fun moments. But anyway, most of the time there's only going to be one age rating, because once you know how the age ratings work, it's very easy to determine what the age rating will be for that book. So I'm going to tell you a couple of ways for you to determine the type of age rating that you might be looking for. Let's just say that you are looking for a book that is not going to mentally affect you in any way that you're going to struggle with. So it's not going to give you sex scenes. It's not going to give you violence. It's not going to give you anything graphic. Heck, you don't even want to see two people kissing in a book. Then what you want is middle grade. Middle grade is books that are written for children who are aged 8 to 12. However, I have a rule, and I don't care what anyone else says. Don't let anyone tell you how to read. It does not matter what age you are. You can read whatever the heck book you want. Now, I mean, parents are good. A parent might look at a book that you brought home that is a full-on slasher horror, and you're a little child, and they say, "No, I don't think so. Please, no, they're doing this out of love." But if you're an adult, if you're over the age of 18, then there is no problem reading a YA or a middle grade. Really, seriously. I don't understand why some readers feel that adults need to be boxed into reading adult books only. It doesn't make any sense to me. What you are after is a middle grade. So a middle grade, as I said, is targeted to readers aged 8 to 12. And they will not have anything in there that is going to freak you out, gross you out, make you want to leave the light on, gonna give you nightmares, gonna have you just all in your head going, "What the F, bleep, 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 did I just read?" It's not gonna happen, because it is targeted to children. So it needs to be written for children. So that's what you're after. You want a nice, fluffy book that is not going to affect you in any way mentally that's going to be too much to take on. Then you're looking for a middle grade. Next level up is YA. YA stands for young adult, but colloquially here on BookTube, we do shorten the terminology to YA. And my theory on this is that we all want to have shorter videos because people like watching shorter videos, so it takes too long to say young adult, so we just say YA. It's very simple. YA books are targeted to readers that are aged 13 to 18. In America, the age that you are at when you are deemed an adult is higher than it is in Australia. I don't know what the adult age is all around the world, but in America it's higher than here. Here in Australia, the day you turn 18, you're an adult. So here in Australia, adult books are 18 plus. But over in the US, according to what I'm seeing here, it's 19 plus. So that is different. But anyway, 13 to 18 is YA. YA allows an author to do a little more. It gives that author a little more leeway. Not too much. It's still like you're on a bit of a tight leash, but you're just given a little bit more leeway. You want your characters to kiss. That is fine. It's a YA. We are writing this for teenagers. According to the research that I have done, YA books, depending upon where they are on the YA scale, yes, my friends, we can get even deeper in here and say, oh, this is a middle grade, but then we've got the middle grade side of middle grade, and then the YA side of middle grade, and then we've got young adult, like young adult, and then we've got a higher young adult. It can get really confusing. But according to the research that I have done, if you're writing a book that is on the higher age range side of a YA, you can do even more. So violence could be included. An example of this that I was given in my research, and I'm glad I read this book, is The Hunger Games. I'm not going to reveal what happens in the Hunger Games, but I will say there is some violence involved. That is why it is allowed. A really good example of some creepy kind of things happening when it comes to middle grade, but creepy for children, is the Goosebumps series. The Goosebumps series can be rather creepy. However, it's creepy for the sake of children creepy, not creepy for the sake of adult creepy. So do keep that in mind. But with YA, the leash is, you're given a little bit more leeway, just a little bit. You can have a kissing scene, that's totally fine. You can have your characters being all in their head about something or other. Mental issues can definitely come up in YA books. So there are some amazing YA contemporaries that I've read that deal with really interesting mental issues. Now, these are referred to more correctly as contemporary issues. So some examples I can give you are kind of sticking out up here. When I go with like Adam Silvera book, More Happy Than Not, they both die at the end. These are YA books. They're written about teenagers, but these teenagers have a lot of mental issues. I'm not saying this in a bad way. I'm trying to say this neutrally. They have issues that are mental. So it's a deep dive look into mental issues. However, what makes it a YA is that it is a deep dive into mental issues from the perspective of a teenager, not a deep dive into mental issues from the perspective of an adult. So it really does depend. YA just gives you that little more leeway. However, let's now talk about the fun one. You want to find a book that is absolutely allowed to go anywhere and do absolutely anything. Heck, you want to write a book where you have no limitations whatsoever. And you want to talk about the bloodiest, most gory scene that you possibly can right after you've talked about the most graphic sexual encounter that you can. You are looking to write, or you are looking for, an adult book. Because with adult books that are 19 years of age plus, or if you're in Australia, 18 years of age plus, you can go wild. Because once a child goes from being a teenager to an adult, they are expected to, as far as being readers, they're expected to have the mental capacity to be able to cope with anything. So there are no bounds. Rather than being given leeway on that leash that you have with a YA or a middle grade, the leash is completely taken off you and you can run free. Do what the heck you want. It's totally fine. It's an adult book. You're allowed to go there. That's kind of the difference. I want to just also tell you about some expectations that you should have going into certain books. For example, with a middle grade, one thing I always, and there is no fail with this, every single time I go into a middle grade, I am expecting, to the point of actually looking for, I am expecting to find a plot convenience. What kind of gets to me is when reviewers, especially the really big reviewers, big booktubers, big bloggers, whatever, review middle grade books and they rate them down for having plot conveniences. Let me explain why. With a middle grade, again, you're targeting books to an audience that is between the ages of 8 and 12. You're targeting children who want to read a book, but we don't want things to get too complicated because for the average, there are very special children out there who are very incredibly intelligent. But for the average child, it might be too much for them to be taking on at once. And I'm not saying too much for a maturity level, but just too many things you're throwing at them at once and they can't take it all in. So a plot convenience comes up. Now, what is a plot convenience? I am so glad you asked. A plot convenience is literally what the two words are saying. A convenient thing that comes up in the plot of the book. Let me give you an example. This is the one I love to use. We have a princess who is being locked in the top tower of a castle. She is crying her eyes out. She has no idea how the heck she's going to get out of there. What is she going to do? She is trapped. But then she opens her eyes and looks down the ground and wouldn't you know it, there's a key on the floor. She picks up the key going, oh, I wonder. She puts it in the lock, turns it and click! The lock opens and out the room she goes. The key was conveniently on the floor. This is a plot convenience. It is an easy way to achieve something that the character does not need to work for because it was conveniently there. Okay, so if you're going to read a middle grade, go in expecting that there's going to be a plot convenience. There may not be a plot convenience. Not every middle grade author is going to use it. But if it is there, please know that there is a reason why it's there. And please try not to mark down a book with your rating because it has a plot convenience if it is middle grade. Because we need to think about the target audience here. However, if a plot convenience comes up in a YA, and certainly if it comes up in an adult book, feel free to mark that book down because they should not be in those books. No. With YAs that are marketed to children between the ages of 13 and 18, they are expected to be able to handle a lot more that's coming at them in a book, and therefore they are expected to be able to deal with characters who are finding their own way out of a situation. In fact, the epitome of what makes a YA is self-realization of a character, their arc of going from a character who's completely lost and doesn't know who they are, to by the time they get to the end of the book, especially if it's a standalone, they know who they are. If it's the end of book 1, they're on their way to finding out who they are. And so the only way to achieve that is to work through whatever it is they need to work through. So if you're reading a YA book and you know that this is the character arc, they're going to go from not knowing who they are to achieving who they are by the end of a book or series, and they achieve this outcome conveniently, it's a letdown. It should not be happening in a YA or an adult book, and that's not my opinion. That is, it just shouldn't. Plot conveniences should only be occurring in middle grades, unless there is a really good reason for it. So let's just say that a character in a YA is locked in a room, but the character that is being locked in this room and this whole situation about being locked in the room is not important to the story, then that's different. The key is on the ground, they release themselves, they get out so they can get on with whatever the main point of the book is. But if them being locked in this room, or whatever that metaphor is to whatever the situation is the big point of the book, a plot convenience should not be occurring. Now, in a YA, what should you expect? I'm gonna be real with you. You should expect something that annoys Mr. Francy, and it is called In Love. Ooh, yes, lovey-dovey. Yeah, you should expect love in a YA book. Having read all of the genres that I've read so far, it really doesn't matter what the genre is. If it's YA, love is gonna be on the table. I'm telling you, it does not matter if it is a sci-fi. It does not matter if it is a horror. It does not matter if it is a dystopian. It does not matter if it is a fantasy. If it's a YA, there's gonna be love in that book, and, well, expect there to be love in that book. If there's not, please let me know, because I want to read a YA without love. But at the end of the day, again, you've got to think about the target audience. At the end of the day, teenagers are the target audience for YA. And generally, among other things, teenagers are thinking about love, stereotypically anyway. And so that's what authors are writing about. Now, with adult books, what can you expect? Here is what I'm going to tell you. In the words of US Big Brother host Julie Chen, expect the unexpected. Expect to be surprised. Expect to be freaked out. Expect to have a jaw-dropping moment that's going to occur that you were not ready for. Expect that characters are going to die that you love. Expect that you are going to potentially get an incredibly gory scene that's going to play out, that's going to really gross you out, and you don't necessarily want to read this, but hey, it's an adult book, so you should expect that. Expect that if warranted, a sex scene is gonna happen, and I mean, I'm not a fan of sex scenes in books, honestly, so when they do happen, all I can think is, oh, it's an adult book, fine. We just have to deal with it. It's here now. Now, if you want to read an adult book where nothing too horrible is going to occur, might I recommend Cozies? cozy mysteries, all of these horrible things do happen. But the joy and pleasure of reading a cozy is that you know it's going to occur off the page. So we will find someone who has been incredibly, horrifically, graphically killed, but we won't see it happen. We're just going to see the end result. Okay? So that's one way to go. But most of the time with adult books, I definitely do expect the unexpected. And so I hope that that helped you to determine what type of an age rating you might be looking for and what the different types of age ratings are. I know I went on a bit of a tangent there, but I hope you still found a way to enjoy it, and I hope that it was educational, at least to some sort of a degree. I am looking to continue on and do some more educational videos, so if you're liking these types of videos where I discuss more informative things to do with books overall, then please do let me know. But in the meantime, I'm gonna let you guys go with peace, blessings, and so much love. I attempt to post videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I attempt to. So no matter what, I'll see you again soon. Be kind, love one another, and spread that sparkling energy all throughout the world. And of course, happy reading!